general aspects, okay, of the research project that I belong to, okay. This is the title of the project, NatTracker, System for the Detection, Tracking, Monitoring and Analysis of the Discourse of Terror on the Net, okay. It's a project that is based at the University of Granada, and I'm one of the members from other universities, in this case from the University of Zaragoza. Okay, sorry. Okay, right, so I'll be basically talking a little bit about what NatGraph is, what kind of people are involved in this project, the reasons why we're doing that, theoretical framework, and then some findings. Right, so when this project first originated, we realized that the phenomenon of jihadism was one that is complex one, multifaceted. So we thought that we needed to work together along with political scientists, psychologists, linguists, and people from artificial intelligence. Myself, I am a linguist. I am a discourse analyst, so I'm interested in the study of language. But we thought that if we wanted to uncover the roots of persuasion in jihadi discourse, we also needed to work together with all those other people. So in the team, all in all, there are three kinds of members. So there are people who are political scientists and who are experts in jihadism, some other people from the field of artificial intelligence, and myself, for example, and my colleague, we belong to the discourse analysis part. These are the three members from the political science bit of jihadism. So two political scientists from the University of Granada and a psychiatrist from Israel, Nancy Cobrin. These are the three members of the artificial intelligence team from the University of Granada. And finally, these are the members from the discourse analysis, the linguistics team. Okay, and this is myself. And this is, in fact, my boss. Okay, this is the principal investigator of the project. Okay, so the project has like two principal investigators. The one for the discourse part, Encarnación Hidalgo, and this is the principal investigator for the artificial intelligence part of the project, Juan Luis Castro.
1 minute, please. I want to make a photo with those people to send to my child to see them.
Okay.
Thank you. I told you the idea after.
Okay.
Thanks.
Right, so what do we aim to do? In this project, we aim to analyze the radicalized discourses on the internet. So to find radicalization on the internet, we aim to observe what kind of strategies, discursive strategies, linguistic strategies lead people to actually join the ranks of ISIS or Al-Qaeda. We also try to identify different profiles, discursive profiles, so people who sort of tend to share the same ideas, the same language. And all in all, the final outcome, the final aim is to build up a software tool that can assist in identifying possible instances of radicalization on the internet. So eventually this is a tool that might be used by the police, by intelligence services. So what we aim to do is to identify a footprint, an index of radicalization on the internet. This is the main objective of the project. So each of us, myself, yourself, each person has a linguistic identity, linguistic profile. So I speak in a way that is typical of myself. We speak in a different way, okay? But we also share with other people features that are part of a profile. So what we aim to do is to identify different linguistic profiles on the internet that may tell us, for example, things like what gender is the person who's speaking or who's writing, male or female, the age, possible age, because obviously the language that somebody who's 20 years old would change from the language from somebody who is an adult, older. The nationality as well. And all in all, we're also interested in the function of the text. because the text that jihadists produce have different roles, different functions. One of the functions can be to recruit people. So there are texts that basically try to encourage people to join the ranks of ISIS. So these Americans are very bad, so please just come and join us. They are destroying everything. So once the people have joined the ranks of ISIS, we need to indoctrinate those people, give them instructions, and then another function of the text might be to plan a terror attack. So we as linguists, we are trying to identify the functions of these texts that we find online. How do we do that? How can we do that? Well, we can do that through algorithms. Okay, they sound very complicated. I cannot provide much detail. I'm a linguist once again. This is what the computer scientist people do, but I'll tell you a little bit about that. So an algorithm is if something linguistic happens, if we find X, then we may interpret that Y will happen. So for example, if in our texts we find kufar plus chopped eyes, this is an indication of extremism.
What is this?
The meaning.
The meaning of
Kufar, okay, so kufar is basically the way that people from ISIS, Al-Qaeda call non-Muslims.
Oh.
So non-Muslims are like pagans.
Mm-hmm.
Kufar.
Kufar.
Okay, kufar. Okay, it's a derogatory term.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? For example, if we find a combination between jump and sham, so it means that this person is trying to encourage others to join ISIL in Syria. For example, if we find a combination between sorry, goodbye, I love you, mum, we are quite likely that to find a case of a possible suicide attack. Or another example, do you know what 72 ED might be?
No.
72 EDs, jihadists claim that if you commit a suicide attack, you will go to paradise and will get 72 virgins for yourself. So if we find 72 ED plus istishad is a Muslim, an Arab term, that means suicide attack, martyrdom, and mothering death, this means that it is quite likely to point towards a suicide attack. So all in all, what we are trying to do is to identify identity. Sorry about that, okay. To identify linguistic identity. Identity is something that can be studied from many points of view. From the point of view of psychology, history, sociology, anthropology, philosophy. But in this case, myself, okay, we are interested in the linguistic part of identity. According to this definition, a person's identity is not just one. We have many possible identities. So I am Miguel Angel and I have one identity, two identities, three different identities. But one person identity is basically a construction that involves how I myself constructed myself linguistically in the past and how I want to be in the future. This is what my identity is, according to this theory. So all in all, identity is a social construct. Identity is not something fixed, identity is not something stable, but something that is construed linguistically, sociologically. And now we're going to move on to talk about the theoretical model that myself and my colleague, the linguists, are using to analyze data. Very briefly, I don't want to bore you, okay? Right, so this is my colleague, Encarnación Hidalgo, my boss, okay? And this is myself, okay? So we are the two members of the discourse team. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the theoretical framework. So what we are doing. So, as linguists, we draw upon three theoretical models, three foundations. We draw upon the theory of critical discourse analysis. Critical discourse analysis is a linguistic approach that tries to study how people are presented and represented linguistically in public speech, public discourse. It is based on ideology, so language is affected by ideology. It is oriented to social problems, and it tries to get people to intervene sociologically. So we want to find out what is going on through language. This will demonstrate some social aspects that will lead us to do something about it, take some actions. We also draw upon forensic linguistics. Okay, so forensic linguistics is a branch of linguistics that tries to identify the authors of texts, very simply. Okay, so who wrote what and why. It draws upon a wide range of methods, a detailed analysis, and according to them, language really matters. If you think, for example, of a WhatsApp messages, or writing an email, each of us has a particular way of writing WhatsApps, a particular way of writing emails that is specific to each of us. And finally, systemic functional grammar. Systemic functional grammar is a linguistic model that is based upon the idea that language has three functions. One of the functions of language is to represent what is going on in the world. For example, today it is raining. I love you. It is a mental process. Language is also used to establish relationships with other people. And language is also used to organize our message. Very briefly, very quickly, okay? Language is a system of systems. Once again, I'm not going to be very technical, okay? But these are, systemic functional grammar is based upon three systems, three taxonomies: transitivity, modality, and appraisal. So, we are interested in appraisal. What is appraisal? Appraisal is the language of evaluation. So how do we, as human beings, express our emotions and evaluate other people and the things that they do? For example, I am happy, emotion. You are horrible, I am judging you ethically. Or for example, this is very beautiful, I am judging something on the basis of its appreciation value. This is a system that we use, a system of attitude, which has three levels. Affect, which is about emotional evaluation. So whenever you find in language something like happy, sad, I was crying, this is emotion. Judgment, which is about ethical evaluation. So for example, you are a liar, you lie all the time, you are evaluating this person ethically. And appreciation, which is about aesthetics. What you did was dirty. What you did was dirty. Okay? So this is the system that we use to analyze linguistic data. According to this system, language and emotion are very much connected. Language cannot escape emotion. So emotion is everywhere. Okay? Even when you say something like, today it is sunny, this is filtered by our affect. By our emotion. Discourse, oral and written discourse, is always produced and interpreted in emotional context. We are not robots. Emotion plays a key role there. Persuasion, right? So persuasion is a key concept, something really important that we want to try and uncover in jihadist discourse. Persuasion, just as emotion, is everywhere. Persuasion and emotion are everywhere in human interaction. Our attitudes, the way that we behave, the things that we do, can be affected by threats, physical coercion, or the way that we feel. But our attitudes and our behavior can also be influenced by the things that other people tell us. So, if we go back to Aristotle, okay, he was a master of persuasion, and then he said that persuasion draws upon three ideas. Pathos, which is emotion. So if I want to convince you, I will draw upon your emotions. Ethos, which is about ethics. So I am honest, and logos, which is about information, objectivity. So, my colleague and myself, Encarnación Hidalgo and myself, we have annotated, analyzed linguistic data on the basis of a model for the analysis of emotions, okay, that is based on a previous theory. So I'll just say that very quickly. So our affect system, our system to annotate linguistically emotions, is based on different linguistic theories and on a range of psychological theories. So it is inspired by psychology at the same time. According to our system, our mind is always based on goals. So basically, all our emotions derive from objectives that we have. If I get an objective, I feel happy. If there is a blockage to one objective, I will feel angry, sad, or whatever. On this basis, there are three kinds of emotions. Goal-seeking emotions, very quickly, okay? Goal-seeking emotions, which are about surprise, interest, inclination, disinclination. So remember that we as linguists, what we do is analyze texts, and if we find any linguistic index of these emotions, we annotate it as such. Goal achievement emotions, so if I obtain a goal, I will feel satisfied, I will feel quiet, trust, or happy. If I don't achieve a goal, I will feel dissatisfied, I will feel insecure or unhappy. And finally, emotions are also about forces. For example, if I like you, liking somebody is about an attraction force. If I hate you, if I feel moral disgust to you, there is repulsion, there is disrespect, intolerance, antipathy, disgust. Now, let's talk a little bit about the politics of emotion and jihadism. Jihadism, from what we have seen, shares many of the features of what we would call as populist discourse, in a way. It is very populist in nature, okay? It emphasizes emotions that move people to act in order to stop inequalities, grievances, or to maintain how things are going. So what jihadism tries to do is to create a sense of emotional connection, emotional bond, and a sense of closeness. For example, I am in Spain, you are in Syria, but I am very close to you, emotionally speaking. What we want to do is to consolidate a community of resistance. We want to resist, we want to fight the others, the governments, the West. So basically, all those images that we find on the internet and television of Muslim people being mistreated or humiliated, what they provoke is just a feeling of outrage and anger that leads Muslim community to act, to do something about it all. Okay? So once again, emotional responses on the basis of pictures, for example, of Muslim fighting American troops. So this all creates this feeling of we need to do something about it. We need to join them as well. So what this leads to is to what is called as diasporic communities. So for example, I am in Spain, you are in France, you are in Belgium, I am in the United States, it doesn't matter. We belong to different communities which are all over the world, but we are one and the same people. Okay? We are one nation. There are multiple loyalties, okay? There are multiple loyalties which basically show that even though we are far apart in different parts of the world, we're all part of the Muslim nation, okay? This is an example from our corpus that shows this idea, my people, my Muslim brothers and sisters. So this shows an emotional attachment that is transnational, that it doesn't only happen in one country, expressed all over the world. This other example from our corpus, okay, so people, the path towards jihad is not nice. space with limbs and blood, and it is full of fear and danger. So this shows this feeling of let's fight, let's create this community of resistance. So there have been many studies on the nature of jihadism from the point of view of politics and psychology. So politics, they've talked about delegitimization. I'm not going to talk about that in detail. In psychology, they've talked about the psychopathological roots of jihadism, the emotional process of radicalization, and the idea of fairness. But to be honest, from the linguistic point of view, there has been very little done. But the thing is that if we want to understand why this is happening, we also need to study the language that is used to persuade others. So we are looking at emotive narratives. Emotive narratives, for example, first-person narratives of people who have joined ISIS, and they talk about their experience, okay? What these narratives show is anger, humiliation, and frustration. They show a lot of anger. So they are killing us. They are doing this to us, okay? But at the same time, those narratives show love and compassion. So anger, humiliation, and frustration towards the West, towards the others who are mistreating us, and love and compassion for the brothers and sisters who are suffering. So anger and humiliation lead to political action, and love and compassion lead to the moral justification. So we need to kill others. Why? It's bad, is it bad? Well, no, it's kind of good because this is for a good reason. And there is this sense of solidarity. So all in all, what we get is an acceptance and a rationalization of violence in the narratives. Data. So what kind of data did we analyze? Okay, so we took some texts, okay, there were very few in fact from Facebook. Okay, we took texts from Facebook. This is an example. Don't Cry for Me Mother, which shows this idea of a possible attack of suicide. But most of our corpus is based on magazines, jihadi magazines, okay, propagandistic magazines. There is a website called Jihadology where you can legally access most of the issues of the magazines of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and so on and so forth. So we took all the issues from these magazines, Rumiyya, Gaidi, from Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and many other terrorist groups. Our corpus, all in all, contains almost 1 million words. And it contains texts from 6 magazines. How did we annotate the data? Well, we used a software tool, a computer tool, that is called UAM Corpus Tool. It's a tool that allows you to annotate texts on the basis of taxonomies. And once you have annotated your text, you can extract frequencies and statistics of your analysis. Right, so what we tried to do was to kind of keep the emotional expression, the annotated emotional expression to the minimum, so as to be as objective as possible. Right, so for example, proud, so we only annotated proud. Traitor to America, so we only annotated traitor to America. Because, I mean, evaluation emotion is very subjective. So you may end up seeing that everything is evaluated, seeing that everything is emotional. So you want to try and be as objective as possible. Our tagging, our analysis included not only explicit realization of emotion, explicit, for example, I am happy, this is explicit. You are a bastard, this is explicit. But also implicit, more implicit realizations of emotion. I'm going to provide some examples. For example, if I say, how are you? You answer, very sad. This is an explicit expression of emotion. But for example, if I say, how are you? And you are looking like that, okay? This is body language. It's an implicit expression of emotion through body language. But if I say something like, Mary was crying the whole afternoon, crying is a physiological expression of emotion that denotes sadness. Metaphor, for example, how are you feeling? I'm feeling collapsed. You are not a building, this is a metaphor. I feel like my heart has been torn apart. It is a metaphor, but it's not direct in that way. Or for example, if I say, how are you? And you say, my cat has left. Out of context. This shows no emotion. But in a particular context, when you know that this person was very much fond of and attached to her cats, this shows emotion. And finally, sometimes emotion can also be shown through opinion. So for example, if I say, my cat was so nice, you're expressing opinion about the cat, but at the same time you're expressing emotion, implicitly speaking. Or if you say something like, this politician is very ugly, you're using the adjective ugly to imply that you hate that politician.
Like an euphemism.
Like an euphemism, okay? Some findings, okay? Just some findings. So in our analysis of some texts, we have found that there is quite a lot of opinion. Quite a lot of opinion. Almost 65% of our marked data imply opinion. In terms of the divide between explicit, remember, I am happy, implicit, my cat has left, tokens of emotion or opinion, there is a prevalence of really explicit opinion, like they are bastards, they killed us, they took our hearts out. It's really explicit. And emotion. So all in all, the magazines are not euphemistic or implicit. They want to make a point. They want to make a point. They are doing this to us, and I want you to see what is going on. Right, so in terms of the positivity or the negativity of the emotion or the opinion, we found that there is quite a lot of negative emotion and negative opinion, which makes sense. Let's have a look now at emotions. What are the most prevalent emotions in our corpus? We found antipathy, distrust, sadness. So all in all, quite negative emotions, okay? In terms of opinion, we found that there were quite a lot of instances of lack of propriety. What is propriety? Propriety is basically based on moral standards. Being honest means being proper. Being dishonest is being improper, right? So, we found a lot of emphasis on people's lack of propriety, cruelness and bad morals. Social valuation. What is social valuation? Lack of propriety is basically these people are doing bad things. Social valuation is the bad things. How the actions are evaluated. Not the people, the actions. Not the people, the actions. Their actions were terrible. Social valuation. Tenacity. What is tenacity? So for example, when they say, we need to keep on fighting till the very end. We need to keep on fighting till the very end, implies this standard, this idea of tenacity. And finally, there's this feeling of capacity. We can do it. We are capable. We are brave. I'm going to provide some examples, okay? This is one. But I wasn't happy. I was not feeling satisfied, and an internal conflict within myself was brewing. So we have two explicit instances of emotion, happy and satisfied. So they are realized by emotion attributes, adjectives, emotion attributes, which have a positive valence. They imply goal achievement and satisfaction, happiness. But the problem is that they are negated. They don't say I am sad, not happy. They are saying not happy and not satisfied. So this negative polarity shows a feeling of dissatisfaction. Another example, an internal conflict within myself was brewing. This is realized by a metaphor, an ontological metaphor, a cognitive metaphor, with negative valence. Okay? A conflict within yourself is brewing is negative. You feel bad. It implies goal achievement and insecurity. Positive polarity in this case. Okay, there is no negation, but all in all, in any way, it implies dissatisfaction. Another example. The oppression on the Sunnis of Sham cannot be uttered in words. So basically, they are oppressing the Sunnis in Sham, okay? They are really bad. They're doing really bad things to us, to them. Oppression. So this oppression implies a lack of propriety. They are doing bad things to us. They are morally improper. And this lack of propriety, for example, if I say, oh God, they are killing us, they are destroying our cities, this implies, in a sub-level, a feeling of antipathy towards the other. If you are saying that they are doing bad things to you, it also shows that you don't like them, obviously, okay? So this combination between lack of propriety and the hatred also is combined with an idea of victimhood. We are victims, which shows this dichotomy between us and them. This is us, we are suffering, they are doing these things to us, and so on and so forth, and them. So the jihadi discourse is very much based on this polarity, on this divide between us, this worldwide community, and them, on the other hand. And a feeling of togetherness. Let's get together and do something about it. Conclusions, okay? We can derive emotion out of opinion. Remember, if you say something like, they killed us, they massacred our lands, this is implying also emotion. We can also derive opinion out of emotion, okay? If you say something like, I totally hate you because you are incapable, because you are cruel. Both strategies, emotion and opinion, are persuasive. They have a persuasive effect. Jihadists show their anger towards their enemies in a very explicit way, and their empathy towards those they are trying to recruit, encourage to join their ranks. Jihadists, as I say, express their opinion in a very explicit way. They don't say, they don't beat about the bush, they just say what they are feeling, okay? And they use a lot of evaluative language, loads of evaluative language, okay, to recruit like-minded members. So they do it through loads of explicit opinion adjectives, opinion verbs, emotion verbs, and so on and so forth. And that's all. Thank you so much.